show, you know, in the Big Brother family that uses dictionary words all the time. It does. And it understands every single one of them. Yeah. Hypertrichophobia. That's the fear of bodily hair growth. Yeah, I know that. Anyway, this week, 3 housemates found true enlightenment whilst Carol tidied up after them. And then she whisked an egg and distributed stolen biscuits, which meant minimum food on the menu all week. And if you can't do the time, don't do the crime, Carol. Yeah. And then Jerry, well, he only went and got himself evicted on Friday. So, here's what's on offer on The Brain Show tonight. The housemates have been revolting against the Big Brother mother. At least another week of cooking, cleaning and controlling the house. We analyse Carol.
Well, bloody grow up.
Who calls the shots and who follows the crowd? We put Liam, Ziggy and Brian's friendship under the body language microscope.
You give men a bad name, both of you.
The psychology of bitching and who's good at it in the house. The science behind backstabbing coming up.
I don't like people talking about us behind me back.
And our opinion of the housemates changes by the day, but do they see themselves differently? We did an experiment on them to find out.
I like myself. That sounds really, really, really lame.
Oh, love is a many splendid thing, especially man love. Especially the man love between Brian, Liam and Ziggy.
Get them, boys.
Stuck it.
Brian, we love you!
If I was watching, you'd be somebody that I would vote for.
And he looks like a bloody model, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's big time.
Liam makes me laugh a lot.
Ziggy, I've grown really close to.
Liam's my best mate in this house.
Hey, why don't you guys get a room?
Oh, look at him over there.
Holy cow!
Holy cow.
Holy cow! It's gone silent. You're not kissing, are you?
Okay, he's my brother from another mother.
You two having a real moment.
I'm not taking you seriously whatsoever.
Oh, my man.
You give men a bad name, both of you.
My time's been made a lot easier in here by the people that are in here, definitely. Like.
Makes you feel all sort of warm and gooey, doesn't it, that? I love that. You know, on the face of it, Brian, Liam and Ziggy, well, they just appear to have one of the most kind of genuine friendships we've ever witnessed on Big Brother. But is that the case? Really? Here to tell all is psychophysiologist Dr. Harry Witchell. Harry.
Hey, Dana.
I want to know. I'm dying to know what happened. Now, anyway, what we did was we called the guys, didn't we, into the diary room.
Yeah.
So you could analyse their body language. So what exactly did you get the guys to do?
So we actually kind of played a game with them that I would call best man speech, where we got them to actually describe one another and their characters, but in front of witnesses. What we did for that is we asked them to describe, first of all, the strengths and weaknesses of each other, and then we asked them to rank one another in terms of things like who's the biggest hit with the ladies, who's most sensitive, that sort of thing. And what we're looking for there is to see how close they are. Now, if they're blokey blokes, what they'll do is they'll say things that are very negative, but in a jokey way. And that's how you can tell that they're trusting. Now, we'll also be looking for a bit of rapport, and we'll finally be looking for who's most dominant.
So it's not really the answers that you're looking for, it's how they answer them and how they relate to each other.
Absolutely. We're looking for body language.
What did you find out?
Well, first of all, from the very beginning, you can see that Liam felt that he was going to be the most dominant one. He takes a position in the center of the chair. He sits right back, that's sort of a lion-like pose, and then he gives a little tap of the foot to old Ziggy and invites him to sit down like he's being in charge. Ziggy has having nothing of it, okay? He refuses and sits higher up on his own little throne. So Ziggy is taking charge there.
But that's very different from the Ziggy we saw earlier on in the series, who sat on the floor, who was quite submissive, and there he is, suddenly he's taking control.
Completely different. In this so in the old days, obviously, Ziggy was trying to fit in with everybody.
Yeah.
Now, Ziggy is, in this experiment, he's got a mission. He wants to get things done, and the way he does that is by, in this experiment, raising his voice a lot, and also by ending conversations really quickly.
OK, well, let's have a look.
Who is the most popular in the house?
Liam.
Liam.
Yeah, I would say Bry, Zig, me.
No,
guys.
Liam.
I'd say, and this is the honest opinion, I would say it'd be close between you two. So
Yeah,
first, second, let's just get it done.
Right, how about the next question?
Least insightful, least sensitive. I mean, he's like getting the blood out of stone.
Should we say it?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm first.
I'll go second.
Third. Before
Excuse
me.
me,
Hey.
I have never done a proper modelling show.
Okay,
I got
okay.
ripped off for
Guys,
600
let's
quid.
cut this. 1, 2, 3.
So what's happening there? He's really taking control.
Practically rest my case right there.
Yeah.
What he's doing is he's raising his voice, and he's almost making proclamations. My honest opinion is, and everyone takes him on board that
And they're
way.
all stumm while he's
Correct.
talking. So he is the most dominant
He's leading
man
them.
in the group.
And all he has to do is actually whisper, should we get this done? He just whispers it, and they stop, and immediately they just answer the question.
Real man.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay,
masterful.
okay. So let's see what the guys think about Liam. Here is what Ziggy said about him.
Liam's greatest strengths, I would say, are very considerate. He is very considerate, although to confirm, he's very considerate. He makes sure that everyone is cool around him and picks up people when they're not. He's kind, caring, definitely, for a lad who's very much a lad. Plus, he's very humble, which is, I think, the most important thing. He's extremely humble for what he's got and what he is. And he's very, 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 very family-orientated.
Okay, so just talk me through that one.
So you could see that at the beginning he's quite positive, but some of these things he has some real doubts about. So he's lifting up his beard there as he's saying he's caring. So that he's
And he really found it hard to find the word caring
Yeah,
as well.
yes. Not really so.
Caring.
Absolutely. And also, when he then talks about humble, it was kind of hard to hear, but you can almost hear him kicking the back of his chair as his leg uncontrollably is banging around. Again, incongruity. It's not like he thinks he's humble. Quite the opposite. He sees him as a rival, a competitor, and possibly even with an ego to match.
Oh.
So...
Look, you look very happy when you said that. And an ego to match. Okay, so listen, what does Brian think about Liam?
Brian sees the dark side of Liam.
Really?
Yes. So Liam has a kind of aggressive side to him, and Brian actually doesn't necessarily think that's always such a good thing.
And also, Brian, of course, saw Liam say that about being jealous about Brian and Amanda in the diary room, didn't
Absolutely,
he? And
yes.
that he lied about it, so...
There's a little bit of friction there as well.
Okay,
Definitely.
so in this clip, right, Ziggy is talking about Liam's weaknesses, but actually it's Brian that we want to be watching.
Yeah.
Ziggy, what are Liam's greatest weaknesses?
Liam's greatest weaknesses. I could really run this, but I won't.
Yeah, I'll go for it.
No, Liam's... you know what? As a person, I don't think he's got many, many weaknesses. I think he's got probably way more strengths than weaknesses. But I'd say the women, that's the weaknesses. You know, that's a weakness.
Okay, what's going on there?
So Ziggy's playing it safe, but ignoring Ziggy, let's watch what Brian does.
Yes.
So Brian would never say anything negative,
No.
not in a sincere way about Liam, but he is actually, when he listens and hears he's got yeah, exactly. He sticks out his tongue. This is a hidden rejection gesture when Liam, and then sticks
And
out
then
his...
properly sticks it out.
Yes, he's rejecting Ziggy's statements that that Liam has no negative faults. Quite the opposite. Actually, Brian thinks that's baloney.
So he's disagreeing, but he can't say it verbally,
Yeah.
so he'll say it with his body.
Yes.
Amazing.
And his thoughts are revealed through body
It's
language.
so amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so look, let's talk about what the guys think about Brian. So, what about Liam?
So Liam sees Brian as kind of a little yapper dog. You know, he's cute and fun to play with,
Yeah.
but watch your fingers. You know, you don't know what you might bite sometime.
Okay, well, in this clip, Ziggy's talking about why Liam came on Big Brother. So keep your eyes on Liam.
Yep.
Let's have a look.
I think he'll be very nicely surprised when he leaves here, and I think he came on Big Brother just to have a lot of fun. But yeah, I think he'll be, yeah. Is that right?
I'm
He's
most
on the
fanciable
pipe,
now, yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, I told you.
Is that
Yeah,
right?
cheers, buddy.
Yeah, that's right.
This is where he comes to show off.
You see, that looks more blokey. That looks like blokey's having a bit of a giggle. What was going on there?
Well, what Liam expects is that Brian has these emotional outbursts. And Liam is... So Brian's completely well-behaved. He's not doing
He's
anything.
not doing anything.
And yet Liam's already waiting. He's twisting up his mouth. He's waiting for stuff to happen. He's practically expecting this. And that's not what blokes want. These emotional outbursts, Liam likes hanging out with Brian, but he prefers, always vigilant for this whole idea about maybe he's going to pipe up at this moment.
Do you think Liam and Ziggy are aware that Brian's the sort of baby of the bunch? Do you think they treat him as such?
Definitely Ziggy does, but I don't necessarily think that Liam is very nice about it. Liam has, in fact, all-encompassing. He's letting Brian into their little group.
So what does Ziggy think about Brian?
Well, Ziggy isn't actually that close to Brian. I think Liam is actually the glue that holds the two of them together. But Ziggy ultimately thinks that Brian is oversensitive, but he likes him. But he can't, because Ziggy thinks that Brian can't control his emotions, that means that he views Brian not as an equal, but sort of like the friend of your little brother's best friend, if you like. They're not equals. Ziggy sees him as never going to be
close, isn't it?
Never going to be a big man.
Okay, let's see what the guys think about Ziggy. What's Liam's opinion of Ziggy?
Liam really admires Ziggy.
He does, doesn't he?
He likes his sort of studly ways, his boy band moments.
Yeah, and his body and the way he's with the girls. Okay, so in this clip, the guys are debating who's the biggest hit with the ladies. Okay, let's have a look.
I'll just put it like this, right? Was it me who was put in with all the women to be a Studley McGuff?
See, that doesn't matter. That's their personal...
I haven't been in Smash Hits nor at JLo's party. So, number one.
Okay, we're going to go with number one.
Number two.
I don't know.
No, you had to go for a long
All right, fine. We'll go not number one.
Number two.
But then you've got this thing with Amanda going on.
So what does that reveal?
Well, there was a moment when he's waxing lyrical about all his women, and he sticks his tongue right there, tongue of desire, okay? And that means he's not actually lying. He's not making stuff up. He actually really believes Ziggy's great.
He does a lot of lip-licking, Liam, doesn't he?
Yeah, definitely. He wishes that he could be like that, have the whole girl thing going.
I think he will when he gets out.
Yeah.
He's not going to have a problem with the girls.
Yeah.
Okay, what about Brian? What does Brian think here?
Well, in fact, Brian actually is more open to what Ziggy is. So Brian likes Ziggy. He's completely honest about that, but there's nothing sort of uncontroversial about it.
Okay, so are they true friends and are they going to stay mates on the outside?
Well, I think what they've got is what you need if blokes to be really close together is you need to have a sense of equality, that mutual respect, and also a shared future. There you go. So on the one hand, we've got Brian, who actually can imagine, they asked him that directly, and that he can imagine a shared future. But these guys, Ziggy and Liam, they're less likely to even think about it. I'm sure now they'd probably just say, yeah, definitely. But what happens in the future...
But surely the shared experience of Big Brother, that's a very bonding thing. I mean, they'll be friends forever, but maybe not close friends seeing each other all the time.
It works in what you're talking about is actually what happens in institutions like prison and army. People become really close due to the intensity when you have a situation where there's shared adversity. But when that adversity is taken away, sometimes people drift apart.
And geography as well, different parts of the country.
Absolutely. So will they stay together? I think that Brian can envisage it. Will the other guys? They're not as fussed about it. And that's because men don't view their emotional ties as being all that relevant. And that's because they're blokes.
Thank you so much, Harry. Brilliant. Okay, still to come, how the way you bitch can reveal loads about your personality. I'll see you in a bit. Welcome back to Big Brother on the Couch. Now, after 12 weeks of living on top of each other, it's only natural that housemates won't see eye to eye, all the time. And how do they resolve their differences? By stabbing each other in the back.
People are talking behind people's backs, and it's not very nice, and I don't like that.
On a daily basis, Jerry tells me that I'm not going to make it to the end, I'm not going to do this on a daily basis.
When his breath was really smelly, I wasn't going to say anything. But I thought, oh, it. Here, your breath stinks.
I think people are wasting their time if they're talking about me behind me back.
The girl's on the defensive, and when she gets on the defensive, she becomes quite aggressive.
You grumble about everyone behind their backs, Jerry, all the bloody time.
I think there's a lot of gossip that happens in this house.
Cara's a bit flirty with Brian yesterday when they come out of there. That's how women work, you know. It's called jealousy and envy, isn't it?
Trace is not someone who I see myself in the future with.
I wouldn't trust her.
I don't trust her, no.
I don't like people talking about us behind me back.
Liam's just come out with loads of stuff. He's just had a moan.
Talk to me, not other people, eh? It's a bit like stabbing somebody in the back, that.
Even when you try and keep things to yourself in this house, it doesn't work.
Here to talk us through the psychology of bitching is behavioural expert Judy James. Hi, Judy. You look hot tonight.
Thank you. You're not being bitchy by saying
I'm not.
you mean it.
I really mean it. So listen, what's the purpose of bitching?
It's got great purpose, actually. It's got psychological and physiological purpose. So psychologically, people do it because they feel it boosts their status. So if I bitch to you about somebody, I feel bigger for having done that, and I've demeaned the other person. It can be used to assassinate as well. And they do it in politics. You know, they actually assassinate one another bitching. So you can actually destroy somebody.
It's imagine a bitching session, Parliament. Brilliant.
And then it's done for bonding. I mean, you know when apes groom one another and do knits and things like that? It's the human version of that, so it is a bonding thing.
Yes, where you're nudge, you know, come over.
That's right, yeah, and we're mates for doing that. Physiologically, it's got a lot of different things that it does to you then. As well, you've got physical stimulation. It's stimulating conversation. If we're bitching, we feel better. It gives us an adrenaline buzz. It stops us getting bored. So it's got quite a lot of the feel-good factor. And then it's very good for what's called aggressive arousal. So when you're dealing with people and they're
use
annoying
very sexy words, Judy.
What? Aggressive?
Arousal.
It's in my contract. It actually makes you... It takes all that anger that you get, all the petty irritations of the day, and all the stress that builds up. They have winner's stress there at the moment as well. They're actually getting close to winning, so they're feeling very stressed about the fact that they're nearly there.
Right.
And this kind of offloads all that stress and aggressive arousal.
So are women, because I really have the impression that women are far more bitchy than men. Is that the case?
Let me think. No, proven fact. They did some tests recently in business, and they were looking at bitching in business, and man-on-man bitching is much more prevalent than women bitching. So, yeah, we're kind of known to having been bitches, but that goes back to the days when men could have physical status superiority. You know, they'd use their fists and things like that, and women couldn't fight. So women were better at verbal warfare. But now, you know, men can't fight either. You can't settle arguments by fighting at work. So it's even Stevens, but the men are ahead, and that's showing in the house as well.
OK, well, you've selected the biggest bitches in the house and analysed their bitching styles. Love that. So first up, I'm amazed by this, is Ziggy. So what type of bitching does he use?
Ziggy does something called martyr bitching, and this is probably why you're amazed. You might have missed it.
Yeah.
What he's doing by martyr bitching, you actually make people feel sorry for you, so you present yourself as a victim and you get them to do the bitching for you.
OK, well, let's have a look at Ziggy martyr bitching.
Look how came around for me today and said, you put me up.
Aye.
Yeah.
But that was a bit of a shock to the old system. Yeah. What did you say to me, you bitch?
On a daily basis, Jerry tells me that I'm not going to make it to the end, I'm not going to do this. On a daily basis, I walk in a conversation, he's talking to people.
He tells people that?
He's going on about, yeah, this is who I think so, and I don't think he's definitely not going to be here and all this stuff like that. He was saying it last night to Cara whilst I was in bed.
Why is he saying this? What's his problem?
Oh, that's clever bitching, isn't it?
It's very strategic.
I didn't
it's very
notice
clever,
that.
and it really shows. You know, he's got the highest Machiavellian rating, and it shows with this stuff because you don't notice it. You just feel a bit sorry for him.
So that's successful bitching, isn't it?
It can be extremely successful, especially for somebody like Vicky. He likes to protect his image. He likes to be the good guy in the house.
What's it say about him?
Well, it shows how much he's prepared to go to protect that image. You can actually see it with his body language. You know, he's full of shrugs. It's not me, poor me, I'm just the victim in the whole thing. But then you can actually see when it hits home, because it's like a detonated bomb. He's smiling, so he's really achieved what he wants to achieve.
So he knows what he's done.
Very manipulative.
And then he's going to watch the carry on the fallout.
Gets everybody else to do the bitching for him. Long-term fallout.
OK, next up we've got Liam. You've analysed. So what kind of bitching is he using?
Liam does status bitching. And
this is surprised by Liam.
Well, you know, you'd think that Liam doesn't bitch because he's a bloke, but he does. He does it to boost his status.
Let's have a look.
Carol's on the defensive, and when she gets on the defensive, she becomes quite aggressive. And then she often tries to stand by her word a bit much, like, you know.
Over too much, and that's it. I won't change it.
Not so much that you would. Not so much that you won't change it, but more to the point, like, I've said this and I meant it.
Are you having the best conversation ever and all you can hear is... That's it, though.
He goes on, he's the expert of body language. He knows about somebody showing the wrists and somebody crossing the legs, that's it. And he's saying how much of an expert he is. That knocks the life off me, that.
I'm sure.
You see, Liam does do his bitching, but often he will go and say it to somebody's face afterwards. So is that a successful form of bitching, do you think?
It is for him, I think, because he's got real problems in the house. You know, he is this very tough guy, very alpha male, and yet he's got no control in the house because Carol's controlling everything. It's all run by an alpha female. And every time he goes and speaks to Carol, she cries, so he doesn't get anywhere with that.
Which makes it so hard, doesn't it?
Absolutely, you know. It's
for anyone to approach her.
A bit of slapping or whatever, but you know, he can't do that, so he has to come back. He comes back to his other alpha mate, and they have this little bitch fest together, and they're like two school kids, aren't they? Sort of moaning about the teacher and moaning about mum. But it's all to do with testosterone with him. I don't think he's really after the leadership role. It's just that he wants to sort of reboot his manliness, get his mad points back again.
OK, let's talk about Carol. What kind of bitching is she using in the house?
Carol is a paradoxical bitch. Love it.
What does that mean?
This is really good because what it means is she will say something that sounds like a compliment, but then either through faint praise or by adding an insult at the end, she gets the boot in.
Oh, that's nasty. So it's kind of... It's a backhander.
Yeah, you say thank
bitch.
you and then it slaps you on the back of the head.
Let's have a look.
No, I love him to bits, but he irritates me. I go into the dining room, not very often, but when I do, I say, oh, God, he's irritated me again. But, you know, I get on his nerves as well. I mean, he does do some things, and he does do things when he gets asked. But he'll say to me, I want to come and cook dinner with you. Can I come cook dinner with you? Yeah. Can you get this? Can you do that? And then he walks off.
I know.
And
that was classic yesterday.
I'm not going after him.
That was classic yesterday. Can I help you with Sunday lunch? And he was in bed all day.
Yeah.
The reason why I'm spending time with Tracy is because actually, with people leaving, Tracy's actually come out of her shell.
Well, if she's got drink in her, she's more fun. I mean, I think...
But still, even on...
I think she's quite reserved if she's not drinking.
Yeah, but he's quite cool to talk to.
Yeah, she's quite interesting.
In the caravan and stuff like that.
That's my favourite. That's my favourite. Yes, well, if she's got a drink with her, she's OK.
And then that lovely phrase, she's quite an interesting person. Can you imagine that being said about you? I mean, it's the worst kind of insult. You know, she's very good at doing this.
That's quite clever as well, because...
It's very clever.
You're not quite sure whether they're being nice or not.
No, it's kind of meta-language, it's called. It's a bit like me saying to you, I'm not trying to be rude, but...
I'm going to say something
insult
very
somebody.
rude.
Absolutely, yeah. It protects her role as the house mother because people think she's probably trying to be kind, and but it did sound a bit rude. Also, it allows her to be rude about everybody. She's absolutely across the board with this stuff because it doesn't seem as though she's bitching. So she'll pick on absolutely everybody.
OK, let's have a look at Tracy now. What type of bitch is she?
Tracy's a facilitative bitch.
The words are getting tougher and tougher to say.
Repeat that. and this is where she kind of fuels the flames and douses petrol on the flames of the bitching rather than instigating it.
OK, let's have a look.
He said, I don't want to keep fruit in my drawer. And I said, well, you don't have to. You can put it in the communal bowl.
Put it on the bowl.
But the thing is, you know, I said, we did that all before. Yeah. We had fruit in the communal bowl.
Oh, what, that worked?
When you're in the pool, she was saying, oh, Liam, we had a discussion and Liam brought up a lot of things.
She didn't know that you felt this way.
And he said, well, why didn't he bring it up weeks down the line? When he goes to work, he sort of like has a groan every couple of weeks. But she goes, I didn't hear nothing from him for all this time. And then all of a sudden it just comes up in one big lot.
No, I suppose that's fair of her talking to you about it, not me, though, isn't it? That's good of her.
It's not very fair, is it?
No problem, Matt.
Carol, if you've got any problems with me, just come and see me.
I haven't got any problems.
No, but talk to me, not other people, eh? It's a bit like stabbing somebody in the back, that.
I was expecting her to fully kind of go like this and go like out of the door.
Twirling a moustache.
You know, is that successful bitching?
It can be, you know. I mean, she needed a role in the house. She hadn't got a role. It helped her to bond with the guys.
Yeah.
But she started double dealing.
Which is?
Well, she started bitching with Carol, listening to Carol, actually egging her on as well. She does a lot of this, you what?
Yeah.
You know, run it by me again.
Yeah, with the tea always.
That's right, and that kind of encourages it. But then she went straight to the caravan and told Liam what had been said.
Yes,
and of course that caused World War III.
Yeah.
So that's probably going to destroy her place in the house if she's not careful.
Who is the biggest bitch?
This might surprise you, I'm not sure if it will do, but we've been doing tests all week, counting all week. Number one, by a wide margin, is Ziggy.
You're kidding me.
Absolutely. By a very wide margin.
It's because it's kind of...
It was interesting because I was surprised because he's got no real reason to do it.
No.
He's very comfortable positioned in the house. Nobody's really threatening him too much. Chanel's gone, etc. And I thought, well, either he's doing it for status, but he's not bitching against the people.
It must be status.
Not really, because he's not bitching against the people that would most threaten him to win. I mean, he's very nice to people about people like Liam. I thought he was perhaps doing it because he enjoys it, and I think for him it's revenge. Anybody that attacks him or dares to criticise him, he does a lot of the bitching against him. So I think it's just to restore his image.
OK, well, thank you so much. That was so, so interesting. Judy. Can't believe it. Ziggy. Unbelievable. Anyway, it's just fun. How 12 weeks in the Big Brother house have changed the way the housemates see themselves forever. See you in a sec. Welcome back to Big Brother on the Couch. It's experiment time with our resident experiment expert, chartered clinical psychologist, Dr. Cecilia De Felice. Hi, how are you?
Great, thank you.
OK, so this week's experiment, what have we got?
Oh, it's a lovely experiment. Before the housemates came into the house, we asked them to do a self-portrait of themselves. And this week, we've asked them to do a new self-portrait so that we can see if there have been any changes in the way they perceive themselves as they've gone through this extraordinary experience of being housemates in the Big Brother house.
And what do we want to find out about it? Just how far they've come?
Yes, and if there are any changes and if we can see anything different in the way that they appreciate themselves or perceive themselves.
OK, so you've chosen a few key housemates to discuss, and first up we're going to have a look at Brian.
Let's have a look at Brian.
I've achieved everything I've ever wanted, and fair enough, I may have mugged myself off a few times in the house, but no one can understand what it's like to be in here, so no one can ever really judge me, or they can judge me, but I don't know, I feel secure in myself at the moment. No, I've learned that I can't always be the coolest person in the world and just be happy being like a bit of a geek at times and gimping out and just, like, fair enough, I'll gimp out and just deal with it. At the same time, I like to think of myself as quite a loyal person to my friends and family and people around me. 9 bloody weeks it took me to be satisfied with my hair, so, yeah, I like my hair. I like myself. That sounds really, really, really lame. Yeah, I look at my self-portrait, I think to myself. It took a long time to come to the person that Brian Bellow was there, so I'm happy with Brian Bellow.
I mean, that is, the whole audience here is all going, oh, I mean, that is extraordinary to hear somebody of 20 years old say, look, you know, I really like myself.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Brilliant.
It's lovely, and I think he says it all, doesn't he? He says this thing about it's taken him 9 weeks to like his hair. Well, I think the reality is it's taken him 9 weeks to really get a sense that he's a good guy and he's found a real place for himself in the Big Brother family. He's like the younger brother. He's got Liam and Ziggy to look up to.
Yeah.
He's had a great time. He's explored his emotions, his sexual emotions, his emotions with Amanda, with relating to the other people in the house, and he's really developed. If we look at his picture, everybody,
That was his first picture.
Look at this picture. It's like a child, isn't it? And there's this tongue sticking out. There's no real body. There's a big head, different coloured eyes, quite messy, a bit out there. And then we look at the transformation, and Brian is just so lovely in this picture. He's put his name at the top. He's really self-assured. His eyes are looking straight at us. He's got this, he's put his, Brian, age 20 at the bottom. It's just adorable. These stars, I think, tell it all, because, you know, these housemates that are still in the house, they are the real stars of this show, aren't they? They are the ones who stuck through it, through thick and thin.
And he's filled all of
it up. And I think it's just a wonderful, transformative picture here. It really tells us
and he's
about...
got his body on as well. Look, the full
he's got a
sort
body,
of proper
he's
body.
substantive. Yes, he's absolutely... He's substantial, and he's connected, and he's connecting with us in this picture. I think it's wonderful.
OK, next up we've got Tracy.
Yes.
So let's have a look.
Tracy, what have you learned about yourself by going through this experience?
I'm not alone in the world. There's lots of people out there coming from all different parts of the country that just want to live their lives quite safely, just like I do.
What is the thing that you are most proud of achieving in the house?
Meeting some fantastic people. Working as a team. Team building's good. Because I live alone, so working as a team to get what we need in this house has been an achievement for myself.
You know, I think it's interesting because Tracy's been on quite a journey there, hasn't she?
I think Tracy has really transformed herself, and it was so poignant when she said that thing about she's not alone, because we know that she's lived a lot of her life alone, and she has learnt to connect to people and make relationships. She stopped saying, deal with it. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
She doesn't say deal with it anymore.
Yeah.
She now actually gets into conversations with people.
And she really comforted Brian, didn't she, the other day?
right.
And she's been doing a lot of talking to Brian and Amanda and trying to kind of connect emotionally with people.
She's found a family.
And one of the other things that I love about Big Brother is that she said, you know, I've learned how to form relationships with lots of different sorts of people,
Yes.
but I love the fact that they put all different sorts of people from all walks of life into sort of a melting pot.
Yes.
People
Yes.
you wouldn't normally connect
right.
with or get on with.
And what she's discovered is that she can get on with them.
And then she's fine.
And she's fine. And when we look at her picture, this first picture of her is... it's great, isn't it? Here is Tracy really out there. Like, she's floating around.
She's
There's
got no body.
She's not connected to anything. She's not really looking at us in the eye. She's got a smile on her face, which is great. But it's like, where is her connection? And when we look at her second picture... it's amazing.
Wow.
Here she is in the foreground. She's right here in the foreground looking at us. This huge smile on her face. Wonderful connection in the eyes here. And this body, it's like she's actually got grounded in something real.
Yeah.
And again, it's just wonderful to see this. It's so positive, isn't it?
Definitely.
It's so positive. Well done, Tracy.
Finally, you're going to talk about Amanda.
Oh, yes.
Who was very interesting with her drawings. Show us
Her
show
pictures
us her,
are
show us her first picture.
Well, her first picture is gorgeous. Look at this picture of
Doesn't she
Amanda.
look gorgeous?
Isn't she
That could be an
gorgeous?
illustration for a book, I think.
Yeah, it's beautiful. If she wants to go into fashion, she's starting in the right place. This is a gorgeous picture. Her beautiful blue eyes staring out at us. You know, just absolutely full of self-confidence. The whole picture is taken up with her. She's got a body unlike the other people, if you remember. And it's just lovely. Now, when we look, interestingly, at her second picture, it's identical. It's like she's got such a solid sense of self. And you'd imagine this because she's got a twin. She hasn't had to go through the house all by herself like the others. She's always had somebody there to connect to relate to, who loves her, who doesn't criticise her, who she can always trust and be with. And it really gives you a sense of how solid that twinship is. And the only difference in this picture, really, is that there are all these love hearts surrounding her. And I think this is really about this feeling of being loved in the house, the fact that she's had this wonderful attention from Brian. Even if she doesn't fancy him back, it's wonderful to be loved and appreciated.
And affirming attention from everybody, really.
And
huge attention from Liam.
From all of
Ziggy,
them.
all these very attractive men
and
throwing
and
around in
women.
the pool all day.
Exactly, and
Very
women.
nice.
You know, she's a lovely, lovely girl,
Yeah.
and she deserves love, and she's given a lot of love in this house.
From all the drawings that you saw, who do you feel has kind of been on the biggest journey?
Well, it's a very good question, and I think that, you know, it's hard to pinpoint just one person, but I think that in terms of how people have learnt to relate, Tracy has done an amazing job, but I think that Brian has matured incredibly from starting off in the house as being quite sort of little boyish and a bit ADHD-ish.
And he's had a birthday, and for him, going from a teenager to a 20-year-old man, it's been a huge thing, hasn't it?
And he's learnt to like himself and not feel a fool, actually, to say, I'm OK, and you can judge me out there, but I know what my experience has been like, and it's been great.
Brilliant, thank you so much. Cecilia. Lovely. Next up, What another week of Carol's reign of kitchen terror means for the house, it doesn't look good. See you in a bit. Welcome back to Big Brother on the Couch. This week, who'd have thought that a packet of chocolate biscuits and the whisking of an egg could have driven such a giant wedge through the Big Brother house? Well, Carol didn't.
Well, it's been interesting this morning because Liam has just had a moan about food.
If you've got a problem with me from now on, you should tell me and not other people.
Well, again, we're dealing with food and bloody toilet rolls.
The 5 of you must be completely responsible for all cooking.
Carol will break out now.
Right, as soon as personals are done, I think people need to get them done quickly and get out of the way.
I know the shopping list needs to get done and stuff, but sometimes people just roam. Do you need people need tomatoes that badly?
Yes, because I'm vegetarian.
I'm sorry, I've got to walk out the room.
She is trying to help everyone.
I've been dreaming about restaurants and stuff.
Got a biscuit?
Oh, you got a biscuit, like?
When you chose to hide food from Big Brother, you directly and knowingly broke the rules.
They are removing our luxury budget this week.
Oh, Jerry now.
Why do
Yeah,
you speak
because
to me
I'm
like that?
sick and
I
tired
don't
of
deserve
it.
this treatment, Carol. I never accused you from a lack of food.
I could go all week without any food and I'd be fine, but it's the listening to the moaning about stuff.
Gurus, you must now decide whether Carol or Jerry is evicted.
Jerry.
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 I want you to stay here and be the mother and look after everybody like you have.
Did you hear them cheering for you, mate?
Yeah, that was very benevolent of Jerry and everything, but he did go on a bit, didn't he? And I'm going to let you need to have the money. It's like, all right, Jerry, we know. Anyway, joining me now to discuss the psychological implications of Foodgate are psychiatrist Dr. Az Hakim and social commentator Dr. Sarah Churchwell. Hi, guys.
Hello.
OK, Az, I'm going to kick off with you. Look, Carol, you know, she's had a week of getting more and more manic with her cleaning and cooking and kind of control. What's going on?
Well, in order to understand this aspect of Carol, it might be useful for us to think about the mature defence that is compensation, which is a strategy which may be put in place to try and cover up areas of weakness, frustration, feelings of inadequacy we have about certain areas. We try and compensate by striving in other areas where we may be more sort of...
So, what are her
better
weaknesses?
Well, if we think about the valid currency in the Big Brother house, the currency is of youth, playful flirtatiousness, beauty. We can imagine that these may be areas that Carol may be sort of underconfident in. So what she does is she tries to compensate in other areas which she is good at, which is sort of extreme house cleaning.
Extreme house cleaning, the new show.
Exactly, and cooking, cleaning, all those things. She's very good. She excels at it, so she does that. Secondly, if we think about what's happening in the house at the moment, Carol's, I mean, this has been like social rehab for Carol. She's got this sort of foster family, foster home. She loves it in there. The role of mother, 12 children. And, you know, we're coming towards the end. We can imagine this might be quite a sort of a stressful time for Carol. So what we can imagine is that the more anxiety she gets in her internal world and the more unmanageable it is, she tries to control that unmanageability in her external world. So she sort of does more and more housework in order to cope with her rising anxiety. But a vicious cycle ensues, whereas her extreme housework causes more irritation for the housemates.
Which means she has to do more housekeeping.
Exactly.
So it's a catch-22.
Catch-22.
Oh, crikey, is it going to get worse?
Yeah.
She's going to be up all night. Well, listen, let's just talk about the sort of hoarding of the biscuits and the whisking of the egg. You know, it lost our housemates their luxury food budgets. So, Sarah, you know... Why did the housemates take it so well? They just took it on the chin. She said they would, and they did.
Yeah, well, I think it was partly the path of least resistance. I mean, they were acting actually like a lot of adults do when they get back they go home to their mothers. They let their mother do their laundry. They let their mother do the cooking and cleaning for them. But, of course, there is usually an emotional price to be paid for that. So then your mother wants you to tell you how much tell her how much you love her, how important she is, how central she is. I think that Carol's driving motivation is that she needs to be needed. And all of the housemates are responding very powerfully to
They
that.
are, and they tell her all the time. And every single one that's come out has said she deserves to win, she's got to win, she's looking after everybody. I mean,
if you look at Hoardgate, I mean, the whole hoarding thing.
Hoarding, yeah, there's biscuits.
I mean,
what was that about?
I mean, what you had was the housemates legitimately managed to replenish their stocks by, you know, winning the task and sort of getting all the food. But, you know, Carol's sort of, you know, crafty, corrupt sort of resourcefulness of rationing, where she sort of sneakily hid things, backfired hugely, because what happened is the actual legitimate replenishment that the group managed to get was taken away from her housekeeping. Because of her housekeeping.
Trying to look after
so
them.
that's a huge blow to her. So the message that it gives to her is, by being a mother to them, actually you're promoting their starvation and their suffering, which is awful
which for her must feel very painful.
Exactly, and the housemates have realised that she equates anything to do with food, feeding, anything with her breastfeeding mother role, and that whenever there's a bit of a blow to her ego, when that's under threat or it's questioned, then she becomes incredibly tearful. And the housemates, like all children, doesn't matter how old the child is, never likes to see their mother cry. So they'll do anything at any cost.
That's a very clever defence.
They'll go to any cost to prevent that.
Let's just talk about the hoarding.
Yeah, it was really interesting, I thought, because most people who hoard food are hoarding it for themselves. And that's not necessarily out of selfishness. It can be out of anxiety. You try to create a secure environment for yourself. You try to create comfort. You know that there's going to be something there if you need it. What was really interesting about Carol was that she was hoarding for them. But she was actually, it was a bit of a fake, because what she was doing, the word corrupt is really nice for it, because what she was doing, she was withholding from them in order that she could later make a big show out of giving them something that she had actually stolen from them.
But when she brought the biscuits out, what was very important to see was that she gave the biscuits out and didn't have any for herself. It was completely a selfless act.
For her,
and she knew that Big Brother was watching. She knew that she was sort of opening, look what I've done, I've committed a crime.
And it was comfort food, right? It wasn't nutritious, it was biscuits. It was the thing that's going to cheer
not bread
everybody
or
up.
butter or something that they actually need.
You know, exactly.
So listen, how come they've been lots of arguments with Carol, but the gurus, they didn't evict her. Now, I know Jerry did this selfless act of
not quite so selfless.
Not so selfless.
I mean, he wanted it to come across as this very altruistic act.
But he had his perfect
so hard at it. But he worked so hard at making it seem altruistic that you start to feel like he's protesting too much. Like he really. The thing was that he preempted the whole process, right? He did it so fast.
I was quite annoyed about that. Were you?
Really annoyed.
It was a bit.
I wanted to see Amanda and Sam.
They didn't have any freedom of will. They were completely coerced.
He coerced the whole situation.
I mean, to understand why, I mean, Jerry, we know that he's quite narcissistic. He's got a quite inflated self-esteem, grandiose, but we know it's also quite brittle. And underneath that is also sort of a huge insecurity. So at that point in time, there's a brief moment where Jerry could either leave after blatant rejection from his fellow housemates, his tail between his legs, ashamed, or he could turn it round and think, well, I'm not going to win anyway in my mind. I might as well go out as a self-sacrificial martyr with a halo on my head. And
it worked so well. He had a great eviction.
It seemed to work really well.
Now, listen, Carol has had a playful side. Let's have a look at that.
I just think this is brilliant.
I've come to bits.
I love Carol.
Well, bloody grow up. Why we're seeing less and less of that, aren't we? And is that because of the tensions around food and things like that, do you think?
Well, you know, in the real world, hard-working mothers sometimes don't have enough time to play with their children. And the way that the house has been the way that the house has been set up is that people take on roles, and the difference in her age and, you know, perhaps less vitality than the others lends herself to taking up on the role of, you know, mother, teacher, din lady. So a rift, occurs between her and the other housemates. She takes on all the responsibility of being Mrs. Beaton and the good housekeeping, the extreme good housekeeping, which frees up the other housemates to become regressed, dependent children who can have all the fun. And then they're not relating on an equal level.
Well, it's like a chasm, isn't it? It just kind of gets wider and wider and wider.
A bit. But I think there's another dynamic going on as well, which is a bit of the martyred mother dynamic, which is when, and again, a lot of us have experienced this on some level or another. Possibly I'm just revisiting my own mother issues, but
it's all right. We hear you, sister.
She's not watching.
She's
in America. It's all fine. She'll never know I said this. That what she's doing is she's actually prioritizing her pleasures. So yes, it's fun to be squirting, water and throwing that around, but she gets greater pleasure from being needed. She gets greater pleasure from being important, from being the center of their kind of circle of needs.
But it's not just pleasure though. It's self-therapy.
Exactly.
All the cooking, cleaning, and chores. The sorting out her external environment is her attempt at sorting out her internal
where
environment.
It becomes where it crosses the line, I think, from what all mothers do into more of a martyred mode, is that she also wants the sympathy for being the martyr. She keeps saying, I'm not eating it. I don't have your alcohol. I don't have your sweets. I don't do this. So she wants them also to register her deprivation and affirm her goodness.
And feel guilty.
So it's not what all mothers do.
As well, you kind of feel guilty. You don't want to, poor cow.
It's a pure guilt trip. Pure guilt trip.
Is she, that nothing makes me more angry than somebody making me feel guilty. I hate it.
We'll try
I'd be
our
like,
best.
no. Put me in there. No. So listen, do you think, is this all playing out well for her? Will she get nominated? I mean, I can't see them nominating her. I think they're going to feel too sorry for her.
I don't know. You're right. It will be very difficult, but she is holding a lot of vulnerability for the House. And the way that this particular group of housemates seem to operate, as far as I can see, is one of attempt to control or break down. And we've seen that with, Chanel, with Charlie.
Yeah.
If you can't control, you start to break down. If you break down, do you have to leave, or can they cope with a breakdown in their midst? So I think that's the next stage for Carol.
Who do you think is going to go, Sarah?
Honestly, I have to say, I think it probably will be Carol, but for another reason, which is that because she also, when she gets distressed, she fights dirty. And we saw that with Jerry, right, where she was saying things like, well, they actually talk about you behind your back and that kind of thing. So that I actually think that if she gets distressed enough, she's going to
snap.
I think she will, and I think there's a lot of simmering resentment. They took it on the chin, but they were angry.
Yeah.
And
the anger
and the
was
resentment
located in Ziggy, and Ziggy went to the diary room, threatened to leave again.
Yeah. So I think it's mounting, and I think that if it continues to be the vicious circle that it is, and of course they've got another week without food.
I think they might go the easy option and go for the newies.
Also very possible.
Anyway, listen, thank you so much, Az and Sarah.
Thank you.
That's it for tonight. Join me here same time next week for our final psychological analysis of the housemates. Next on 4, it's Big Brother. People, cameras filming people, you watching the people, cameras the film. Brilliant. Good night.